It is a timeless story. It's quite magnificent.
As a child hearing this story, you could never possibly understand it the way you understand it now.
It's got real spiritual themes and ideas in it, and moral struggles.
It's an extraordinary achievement.
Behold, DreamWorks Pictures presents the making of The Prince of Egypt. An epic adventure. An incredible challenge that has taken hundreds of artists, technicians, animators, and musicians 4 years to bring to the screen. A film that DreamWorks founders David Geffen, Steven Spielberg, and Jeffrey Katzenberg were determined to create.
I didn't want us to tell fairy tales. I wanted us to try and pick a interesting, dramatic, epic, embracing all the technique of animation. Steven sort of thought about it for a couple of seconds, and he sort of leaned forward and he said, well, why don't we do the 10 Commandments? Just like that. And after my jaw hit my lap, I said, well, what a fabulous idea.
Because it's so different from anything that's being done in animation, nobody else would dare touch it.
It's just an amazing, amazing story that deserves to be told.
The Prince of Egypt is the dramatic story of two brothers whose futures are destined to collide.
Hey, Ramesses! How'd you like your face carved on a wall? Someday, yes! How about now?
Mommy.
A lie made them brothers.
Come, Ramesses. We will show Pharaoh your new baby brother, Moses.
The truth will separate them forever.
You were born of my mother, Yocheved.
Stop it.
You are our brother.
Fate has pushed Ramesses and his role to become Pharaoh on one path, and Moses to become the shepherd and leader of his people on another. He has to abandon all that he has grown to know and think he is as a human being, an Egyptian, only to find that he had a greater calling and was set on this mission to free the slaves of Egypt.
It's a brother story, really, of two brothers that fall apart, you know, they're related, become estranged to the point where they're completely opposite.
Both of these men care about each other in a way that doesn't make their calling or responsibilities incidental.
They're enemies, but when brothers are enemies, they don't stop being brothers.
The film features the voices of Val Kilmer as Moses and Ralph Fiennes as Ramesses.
Moses! Where have you been? I took you for dead.
Your brother.
The cast is perhaps the finest ever assembled in an animated film.
What these actors did was they brought incredible depth and meaning and layers of emotional content to the most simple statements. And they were able to make very subtle beliefs come alive.
Stop it. Stop! Stop it! Leave that man alone!
Val Kilmer has put more time in it than any other actor has in an animated film. He has never turned us down when we've asked him to come back, even if it was for one single line, to just make that dialogue read a little bit better in the movie, be a little bit stronger performance.
You saw what happened. I just killed a man.
To me, it's very reminiscent of theater, which I spent a lot of time studying, and rhythms of speech and the importance of each phrase and the kind of work that I've rarely had a chance to do as an actor in film.
And I can no longer hide in the desert while they suffer.
Yes. By my words, it shall be.
Ralph Fiennes is so good. He puts so much into it up front, and he's so professional. It's amazing.
I was working very much from my imagination of what a scene would be. You have got very few aids visually or physically around you. I mean, they put up storyboards for me on television screen or on boards. Although it helps to be physical in front of the microphone, in a sense, everything is focused into your voice. Your voice has got to be its own physical body.
Moses, our mother set you adrift in a basket to save your life.
Cast as Miriam is Sandra Bullock.
Her role is sort of the believer, the one who holds on to the faith.
I have been a slave all my life. And God has never answered my prayers until now.
She helps her brother cross over and see where he came from.
My children, let us thank God for this bountiful food.
Danny Glover is featured as Jethro, and Michelle Pfeiffer portrays his daughter Zipporah, who marries Moses.
The ancient traditions.
Patrick Stewart is the distinguished voice of Pharaoh Seti, while Helen Mirren is his queen.
I was seduced into playing the role when I saw the drawing of this absolutely gorgeous woman. I've always liked the idea of playing queens anyway.
Miriam, what do you think you're doing?
Jeff Goldblum plays Aaron, the brother of Moses. And Steve Martin and Martin Short team up as the Egyptian high priests Hotep and Hoi.
That's pretty. Every spell and gesture tells you who's the best. You're playing with the big boys now.
Hush now, my baby, be still, love, don't cry. Sleep as you're rocked by the stream.
The Prince of Egypt debuts 6 new songs written by Academy Award winner Stephen Schwartz and a score by Oscar-winning composer Hans Zimmer.
I instantly embraced this incredible challenge because you're dealing with such history, you're dealing with so many people's emotions and beliefs and truly the cornerstones of who they are.
Of the whip on my shoulder. Deliver Us was the very first thing that I wrote for the film. It was very important to me that, as a lyricist, that people be engaged right away in the sufferings and struggles of the Hebrews, that they be sympathetic to their plight immediately, and also that they connect with the story on a more personal level.
That was a gift. To be given that as our first thing that we worked on, and then to add the visuals that we did, it started the momentum for the rest of the picture, but it also served as the template that I get it, this is what the movie is.
A single thread in the tapestry, though its color brightly shines, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design.
Songs in animated features have become very, very important in terms of both telling the story and giving a style and tone to the movie. And the song Through Heaven's Eyes ultimately came out of the idea of how do you measure the worth of a man?
You must look at your life. Look at your life through heaven's eyes.
One of the things that we set out to do was make sure that the songs were always about some event that happened within the film. The Midian song, Through Heaven's Eyes, portrays a passage of a huge space of time in which Moses becomes part of the culture and finally marries Zipporah.
Throughout the process, Stephen has been there. His lyrics are advancing our story. They're not songs that are just sitting there. They take the story of the Prince of Egypt to a new place.
I am a sovereign prince of Egypt, a son of the proud history that's shown, etched on every wall.
In this time of fear, when prayers so often proved in vain,
we came up with the idea of a song that would be especially represent the movie and all the ambitions for it and the beauty and the positiveness of the human spirit.
When You Believe is the central song to the film. It is about both having faith and about perseverance.
there can be miracles when you believe.
Music industry recording stars Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey also perform When You Believe for the film.
You will when you believe.
perfumes of incense, graceful rooms of alabaster stone, all I ever wanted. This is my home.
To research the origin of this ancient story, directors, producers, animators, and art department heads traveled to Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula.
It is unbelievable.
I think the biggest advantage of our going to Egypt was getting the chance to walk through the same places that Moses would have been and put us in that environment where he was, that I could see what it's like to build one of these enormous, pyramids and temples.
It's the specifics that are so useful. The names of birds, the sound of sparrows in the Valley of the Kings. These are the sort of details that may show up in a lyric.
Quality of light alone could be enough to inspire a sequence. One sequence I'm working on deals with hieroglyphs and imagery and things that I had never noticed in photographs. It definitely adds to the textural quality of the film if you can get a little actual texture, yourself.
The Prince of Egypt features the talents of more than 425 DreamWorks animators, artists, and technicians.
This is the family coming together.
Tell us straight up.
What has really impressed me is the perfectionism of everyone involved.
The painting style starts off fairly realistic and gets pushed into different dimensions.
The relentless drive to perfect and to question what they do and have we got it right? Are we being too glib here? Is it too dark? Is it too serious?
That wall is the distance between life and death for her child.
The level of artistry, of graphic artistry, and the intelligence of the scenes, that impressed me hugely.
When he says my son, I'd actually have him put his hands on Moses, touch him on both shoulders, and Moses takes himself not only out of the light, but removes himself from his father's touch. And then you go to your shot where he disappears out of the light.
From the very beginning, filmmakers wanted The Prince of Egypt to expand the aesthetic boundaries of animation. For inspiration, they looked to 19th century French illustrator Gustave Doré for his dramatic use of light, to Impressionist painter Claude Monet for his handling of color and place, and to film director David Lean for his epic sense of cinema and scale.
Animation is pure creative expression. It is pure artistry, in that every single thing that you see and hear in a frame is out of someone's imagination.
When I saw the quality of the artwork that the producers were dealing with, it gave it such an extraordinary kind of scope. I thought it was absolutely magnificent, and I realized that, of course, in animation you can do the most astounding things. This form is capable of giving a story like this all the grandeur and the size of the tapestry that's needed.
We had a phenomenal group of artists join us, and all, I believe, came here because they had something to prove for themselves. The effort that's been put into this film is extremely significant.
To help design the look of the film, DreamWorks background supervisors traveled to Death Valley, California.
Producers said, you're going to be painting the film, you're going to be designing the colors and the landscapes and the textures, so you're going to need to know somewhat of what it's like. So they said, well, pretty much pick a place. Well, Death Valley is perfect because I think it's the closest thing to Sinai that this country has to offer.
It's spectacular, it's beautiful, it's spooky. Huge spaces and big sky, and light is really the most powerful element out there.
It's like life itself, you got to live it. You can't just kind of see it from the outside. If you're going to paint a scene, it's got to feel hot on screen. There's a scene when Moses is walking through the desert and he's going to die. But to get that kind of emotion to translate on a screen, you have to be there. Feel the glare hitting you in the face, you feel the sweat. It's an emotional thing, and film has to be an emotional thing also.
The original design and art direction of The Prince of Egypt required DreamWorks artists to create an equally innovative look for the characters.
It's a new style, and it's a very realistic style. So we're not drawing cartoony rabbits or mice, we're drawing real human beings. I think every animator puts a lot of himself in the characters. We actually close our doors and act the scenes out before we start drawing them. Then we start to try to put it on paper.
I use the mirror a lot. I have a mirror in front of myself and just draw the funny faces and hands and difficult angles and stuff like that.
I just use a lot of influences from my own life if I can get it. I try and do things that are natural. Hopefully the Moses-mother relationship comes off like that too. I made it so she's always touching him. She's trying to console him, and my mother would do that whenever I got too upset. And those things I definitely pulled from my own family.
It's all come from your heart. I mean, there's nothing really can fake. All what you do, it's all on the screen.
I mean, that was certainly a long time ago.
I went to the recording sessions, and it was very helpful because Jeff Goldblum, he has this very personal way of moving and gestures and things that he does.
Oh, my good prince. She's exhausted from the day's work.
He got my mannerisms somewhat and what I was trying to do here, and it's just very fun for me to see. He did a great job, I think.
Animation can be so real. You find yourself being moved by this beautifully animated person, and it's just amazing. And didn't realize how animated I was until I saw myself on film. I was like, oh God, I do that.
You will show the proper respect for a prince of Egypt.
But I am showing you all the respect you deserve. None!
Michelle Pfeiffer, I was really stunned by the way she was just going onto the mic, getting the room dark, and just bang, the scene was there. So I'm trying to get the same kind of feel for the character. My wife is a big inspiration as well for the childish kind of side of Zipporah.
Have I taught you nothing? You mustn't be so hard on yourself, Your Majesty. You did all you could to raise worthy sons.
At the beginning, I was not sure that the fat guy was supposed to be Steve, but when I heard the voice of Steve Martin, I thought they fit very well together.
Yes, Your Greatness. It's not your fault your sons learn nothing.
And Oi with Martin Short, I thought it worked very well. And I love those two actors.
Man! Oh, my new thing! Oh!
The Prince of Egypt has brought the world of ancient Egypt to life by expanding the limits of computer-generated imagery and pushing the envelope of technology. Using a revolutionary new piece of software called the Exposure Tool, animators for the first time are able to place hand-drawn two-dimensional characters into a computer-generated three-dimensional world. Characters can move through that world, and the camera can follow, bringing the story to the screen in a whole new visual presentation.
With the Exposure Tool, the camera is completely free to move around inside this environment, exactly like Steven Spielberg's live-action camera is able to move around a real set.
Normally, if a 2D background is here and you move the camera, well, suddenly you see the background on edge and it doesn't quite look as good anymore. Well, what the Exposure Tool does, it'll literally warp the background so that they stay at an approximately correct perspective throughout the process.
One of the neatest scenes we've done using the tool is the chariot race. There's a big pullback. Ramses is in the chariot, and we pull back, and then we follow him up this hill and over the top of the hill.
It allows us to treat the camera in an action sequence in a very fast, choppy, editorial way, so that we're constantly repositioning, moving the camera, chasing the action.
I think the important thing to say, instead of getting very technical, is a scene that used to take 9 months to try to put together, now you can do them in about 3 days.
DreamWorks enlisted the talents of live-action special effects artists to depict a series of plagues that devastate Egypt.
The plague sequence had huge, massive size and detail. The turning of the Nile to blood, the pestilence, the swarms of locusts, and hailfire from the sky. What was unique to each one of those is the complexity, and that's really why we decided to use computer animation on this sequence. The locust scene, for example, had 7 million locusts in it. And I don't know of one animator that could have, or wanted to, draw 7 million locusts. Plague of pestilence was challenging to the computers. I had to have bugs that crawled on the surface, interacted with items that were on the surface. These bugs were crawling out of bread. They couldn't run into the cups. They had to destroy the bread as they came out. And that was really pushing the envelope as far as technology goes.
The final plague is the death of the firstborn, or what they call the angel of death plague, which claims the life of the firstborn in Egypt. It was conceived as a very organic, vaporous form with the ability to think. The big challenge was to get it to not look like it was created in the computer. There's a particular scene that I really like where there is a painted background and a painted overlay, a middle ground, and in between the two, there's sandwiched the imagery of the angel of death, which is computer generated, and the styles match so well that it's just seamless. The burning bush was described to me as the pivotal moment of the movie. It's the first representation through effects of the presence of God. We are trying to not only be visually spectacular, but try to, on a personal level, touch the viewer.
The Exodus sequence where Moses leads the Hebrews out of Egypt adds to the film's epic scope.
As we started to unravel the story, we realized we had to do complete family groupings, walking through the Red Sea, with all of their belongings.
We had no software, we had no talent or expertise that had ever done it before.
We had so many characters, and each one got animated separately.
When you put them in a shot with the traditional characters, right now, people are actually asking us which ones are traditional and which ones are computer generated, and that's exactly what we wanted to hear.
One of the most challenging tasks for the effects animators was the parting of the Red Sea.
Animating a miracle is incredible. I mean, how often do you get to animate an act of God?
The parting of the Red Seas is a huge challenge because it's such a pivotal point in the story, and if we didn't deliver the effects properly, it would have let down the story.
The parting of the Red Sea, it had to be huge. It had to have an incredible scale. It had to be scary. It had to be magical. It had to be awe-inspiring. So what we've done is we've created an animated painting, effectively, in the Prince of Egypt, and we've brought the viewer into this environment and immersed them in this experience that you could never film and has never been seen before.
Visual effects in feature animated films are just as computer intensive, creatively intensive as they are in live action films. The Red Sea as a sequence is using over 300,000 hours of rendering time, which is over 32 years of technical rendering time, which is almost double the total rendering time on Titanic. Prince of Egypt uses the technology that is throughout this studio in a way that empowers the artists to tell their creative vision and tell the story without taking the audience out of that story.
This film is groundbreaking, I think, for what people perceive animation to be. I think it's definitely going to change people's minds a lot.
It's an eyeful, it's spectacular, it's different than any animated movie you've ever seen.
What is most special about the picture is the depth. It has so many layers of meaning and performance and artistry.
Look at you!
The real miracle of Prince of Egypt has been how much great talent there is out there and how much they wanted to join in the dream, how much people were prepared to take a risk.
Jeffrey, Stephen, and David's decision to make this a film that they had to make rather than a film that they were marketing was the best decision they could have possibly made, because the focus isn't on turning out toys, it isn't on doing things that other people want you to do, it's to do a film that they actually think is a good film.
This is one of the few times I've walked out of something thinking I'm glad I'm a small part of this huge experience. It's a really nice message and a very powerful film.